What it do, YouTube? Let's get ready to rock and roll.
And here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
your mission.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream.
To be given the right of human beings to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Wednesday, October 14th, 2015. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. We had a great time last night. Thank you for everyone who joined. We had quite a few people who joined. So far, it's like over 1,000 views. It might be 1,500, I don't know, on last night's event. We had a lot of live polling going on. We had fun, a lot of debates. Of course, I want to thank everyone who joined us: Rihanna Pygos, Kevin Moses, Frederick Wilson, our conservative brother from another mother, and April Rain. We also had several listeners join in. Patrick McNeil, thank you so much for joining us. And oh goodness, I shouldn't have started calling names. His name, I can't pronounce his name. I wasn't even pronouncing it right, but I believe his last name was Smitty or Smith. So you know who you are. I'll go back and I'll find it during commercial break and thank you properly at the end of the show. But thanks so much for everyone who joined us last night. We had a great time. The debate, that's what we're talking about this morning. I have two other things that I'm talking about besides the debate. There's an article in the description on YouTube as well as on Spreaker discussing the end of the Southern strategy. So I will discuss that towards the end of the show. And I just got a link to I don't know when this interview took place with Steve Kroft and President Obama on 60 Minutes. I don't know if it was this past Sunday or if it's on the upcoming Sunday. Whenever it's aired, whenever it did air or whenever it's going to air, I definitely have to talk about it. So I'm going to squeeze that somewhere in here, probably when I start talking about the Republicans. I want to talk about the debate because obviously that's what happened last night. I think it was first. Let's start with the fact that if you couldn't tell the difference between the substance of the Democratic debate versus the non-substance of the Republican debate, then you, my friends, might be the victim of propaganda. It was a night and day difference from question one all the way till the end. It was a night and day difference between how Anderson Cooper followed up. Anderson Cooper hammered every single candidate to the point where he almost got on my nerves because, you know what, the thing is, I love follow-up questions and I think he was doing his job. I think he ultimately did his job, but you know, we need follow-up questions for all candidates, for all parties. There were no follow-up questions for Republicans in any significant fashion. That's because the parties, the debates rather, were not substantive. The Republican debates, both Republican debates, all 6 hours of the Republican debates had less substance than 10 minutes of the Democratic debate. Real issues were talked about. We didn't spend time discussing who hated Planned Parenthood more, who was going to lie more about Planned Parenthood videos, Carly Fiorina, who was going to lie more about Benghazi, who was going to use the word anchor babies the most. We didn't have any of the ridiculousness. Now, because of that, I guarantee you that the ratings were down. And I had a discussion with Frederick Wilson from Let's Talk Politics. I had a discussion with him on air a couple of weeks ago and discussing about why more people are interested in right-leaning politics than left-leaning politics. Well, because when you actually get into the meat of and the minutia of legislation and policy making, it's not exciting unless you're just a policy geek. It's not it's not Donald Trump-esque. It's not reality TV. And America has a fetish for the ridiculous. America, that's why World Star Hip Hop and other outlets like that are so popular. It's because we have a fetish for fights. We want to see things, we want to see drama. We want to see all of those things. And that's what the Republican Party gives you. And that's why their ratings will always be higher. That's why Fox News ratings will be higher, because they feed that base level of human nature. Last night was actually about policy and leadership and what we're going to do next. Now, there are very distinct differences between Hillary, Bernie, Jim Webb, Lincoln Chafee, and Martin O'Malley. I want to dig into those, and I want to get your opinion and your feedback so you could join the conversation. 857-600-0518. Let me make sure first. I need to make sure my phones are actually up, because there they go. That computer decided to restart itself on its own, just shut down actually on its own. So I want you to join the conversation. 857-600-0518. So that's first and foremost, a clear difference between the substance and the quality. You had on the Republican stage people who dressed the part, people who were nicely shaven and clean cut, and they looked, I would say the majority of the Republican Party candidates looked presidential in terms of their fashion, right? But in terms of substance, they had nothing. And then on the Democratic side, on the left-leaning side, progressive side, you had Lincoln Chafee, who looked, is it disheveled or besheveled? I don't know which one it is, but he looked a mess. Like, who let Lincoln Chafee get on stage looking like that? Jim Webb, his suit was too big on him. Bernie Sanders' suit fit a little better than it normally does. Bernie, he had his hair pressed down, and Hillary, it was a little mess. It was kind of a mess in terms of the overall appearance of the candidates. The Lincoln Chafee, Jim Webb, they could have just stayed at home. Martin O'Malley, he was there's so much to talk about. I need to take it in portions. Okay, so let me do something real quick. Okay, caller, I just missed your call, so you can call back in. But so that's what's going on. That's what we're talking about this morning, and we'll do everything else. Let me start first with Jim Webb. I want to start with Jim Webb because Jim Webb tells a very strong narrative of Democratic evolution. Jim Webb, to me, looked last night like he was completely out of place. He sounded completely out of place. He sounded as though he was stuck in 1992, trying to run for a president in 1992. He is very hawkish, excited about war. When they asked about which enemy is he the proudest to have, he talked about a soldier that he killed, right? So he's excited about war. He's definitely a hawk in that regard. He's conservative. He couldn't bring himself to say Black Lives Matter at all. He went straight for all lives matter. I mean, he is everything the Democratic Party used to be. And that's the key thing I want to bring up, is that Jim Webb is a reflection of what the Democratic Party used to be. It's not where the party is now, but it should tell you something about the transition of the party, as well as the transition of Hillary Clinton. Who Jim Webb is now, he didn't get the memo that the rest of the party has moved on, that progressives have moved on. He did not get that memo. Either he got it or he just didn't care. But who he is now is exactly who Hillary Clinton was and Bill Clinton was back in the 90s. This is how we got all of this conservative leaning legislation that has hurt America. This is how you get the blue dog Democrat. Jim Webb is a throwback Dixiecrat, blue dog Democrat. And it's almost a good thing that he's on stage so that we can see exactly the potential of this Democratic Party and what they can easily revert back to. This is who Jim Webb personifies. He is the quintessential example of how Democrats are not too much different than Republicans. Because here's the other thing. Jim Webb would be a great Republican nominee. He would probably win the Republican nomination. But that shows you how a certain group of Democrats you cannot distinguish from Republicans whatsoever. And the problem I have with it, not the problem I have with it, let me correct myself. The thing I want to point out the most is that this is who Hillary Clinton was. Now, I am not one of those people who don't believe politicians and leaders can evolve. Let me say that in the affirmative. I believe politicians and leaders should evolve. When they get new information, they should have new opinions based on new information. We don't know it all from the beginning. However, I find myself a little hesitant, a lot hesitant. Matter of fact, just confused in understanding how people can have this passion for this progressive Hillary that just emerged in the last few weeks, not even in the last few months, in the last few weeks. Because when I looked at the stage, Hillary is so far to the left of Jim Webb, thank God, but Hillary used to be Jim Webb. Bill Clinton used to be Jim Webb. And so it's kind of nerve-wracking for me to understand how people have so much passion for a person who came so far from the right. And now she is, this progressive that Anderson Cooper asked. I think one of the first questions he asked her, is she really a progressive? And she said, yes, I'm very much a progressive, but I'm a progressive who wants to win. I just don't, I don't understand the passion. And I really want to understand this from some Hillary supporters. When you look at the reflection of Jim Webb, because he is what the Democratic Party used to be. He is exactly what Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton used to be. He's a tough on crime. He's the no nonsense. He was even anti-affirmative action, right? He's everything a Dixiecrat, moderate center Democrat used to be. But this is who Hillary Clinton was. And in a lot of ways, this is who she was up until recently. So I don't have a problem with people evolving. Let's take gay rights, for instance. I personally evolved on gay marriage. I evolved from my religious apprehension, my religious objection, and crafted out a position that makes absolute sense to me and makes absolute sense to most people when I talk about it all the time when I talk about it, right? Hillary Clinton didn't object because of her spirituality. Hillary Clinton objected because the majority of the population objected to gay rights and now to gay marriage. And now she's evolved. So there's a difference between evolving out of political expediency and evolving out of, I've gathered new information, I've thought about this, I've processed this, and this is where I am now. So I'm putting a challenge out to any Hillary supporters. I want to know, are you guys simply ignoring the fact that Hillary has not been progressive and she's just now getting caught up to progressivism? Or do you really think that she's been progressive all along? And that's what I saw on stage last night. I saw Bernie Sanders, who has been legitimately progressive his entire political career, with the exception of some of his votes on gun policy, right? Other than gun policy, he's been the most progressive person, I think, of any candidate. So progressive, he couldn't caucus with the Democratic Party. And at the time that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were leading the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders said they're not progressive enough. And so he is an independent. So you had that on stage, and then on the, I wish they had them on the correct side. So Bernie Sanders was on the right of Hillary, Jim Webb was on the left. So if you flip that, that's politically where they are. You had Jim Webb on the other side of Hillary, who has not moved an inch. He has not budged. He woke up. It's like he woke up from a coma and said, I'm going to run for president. And he thinks it's still 1992, right? So this is exactly who Jim Webb was. And he reflects where Hillary Clinton came from. Bernie Sanders represents where Hillary Clinton is trying to go. I don't understand from Hillary supporters. Do you not care that she's not a genuine progressive? Do you feel like she's a genuine progressive? Do you think that, just help me out with this one? Because this one, it's not so much Hillary. I understand the political expediency because America is catching up with the progressiveness of Bernie Sanders. And so now that America is catching up with the progressiveness of Bernie Sanders, then, well, now it's comfortable and it's convenient for Hillary Clinton to catch up with the progressiveness as close as she can go without stepping on the toes of her corporate donors. And I want you to understand, I'm not bashing Hillary here. I'm just let's have a realistic conversation about progressivism in the Democratic Party. We were not, and I say we because I think with the exception of one election, I voted with the Democratic Party, right? Throughout the last 40 years, Democrats have not been progressive. And in a large chunk of those 40 years, 20 of those 40 years, the Clintons were the face of the Democratic Party. So how do you come to terms with the reality that we are a progressive America now, and we're pulling along, our Hillary Clinton is catching up. The train has left. The progressive train has been in motion since 2008. It kicked off in 2008. We didn't get far. But as we discussed issues, as Occupy Wall Street came forth, as Black Lives Matter came forth, we became a more progressive nation. And now Hillary Clinton is running behind the train, waving her hand, saying, "Wait for me, wait for me." Help me to understand. Somebody? I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think you have to just like Hillary, and you have to make excuses for her progressivism or a lapse of progressivism, because when you looked at that stage last night, Jim Webb, as out of touch as he is, that's exactly who Hillary Clinton was. And that's exactly who Bernie Sanders has never been. That's just the facts, ladies and gentlemen, with a little bit of my spin and my passion on it, but it's still the facts. That still remains true. When we come back, I'll take this call, 857-600-0518. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. We'll be back after this.
When you're ready to lose weight, why count, track, and worry over every meal? Jenny Craig makes it simple. Just walk into a neighborhood Jenny Craig center or give us a call. You'll meet your dedicated personal consultant who helps you reach your goals. Together, you'll pick out delicious Jenny Craig foods that you'll love and design a menu that fits your life. And the best part is that you can get started losing weight right away. Don't wait any longer to take advantage of our best offer ever. Call 1-800-JENNY20 or visit jennycraig.com.
This is the sound of salmonella gyrating on your undercooked chicken. And it looks like Mom might be taking it out a little early. Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. So use a thermometer to cook each type of meat to the right temperature. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
I'm making beef sliders for my friend Sandy. Nana taught me to always pull meat off the grill early so it's extra juicy.
Use a food thermometer to ensure ground beef is 160 degrees, or you could make people really sick. Sandy didn't think twice about the slider she ate until yoga class, when a nasty case of food poisoning turned her downward-facing dog into upward-moving lunch. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov and learn the steps Maria unwittingly leaves out. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up,
I want to be a kid's first computer. I want to be a bike that races around the country. I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
Welcome back. Okay, so I had a message. I missed that first call. And if you want to join the conversation, you can, 857-600-0518. But the caller left the message saying all he wanted to say is that Bernie Sanders blanking killed it. All right. I think Bernie did a great job last night. I want to talk about how he could do better. I think he did a great job, but it's my responsibility to be true to myself. And there's some things that Bernie could do better. And I hope you guys can hear me without, because I know the passion, the feel the burn passion is real. But I want to be true. And there's some things I think he could do better. I wanted to also give the right name. A myth joined us last night. So thank you for joining us last night. We had a great time. I want to thank everyone who joined us. We had a blast. Okay, so let's talk about Bernie Sanders' performance last night. I think substantively, he was great. I wanted to reach across the aisle and bitch slap Jim Webb for his condescending suggestion that there will not be a political economic revolution. And I mean that sincerely. That was one moment I could have jumped through the screen and just pimp slapped the hell out of his Dixiecrat ass, because that is exactly what is the problem in America. The fact that you had fake progressives or Democrats who were clearly not progressive running the party for so long that there could not be any type of change to undo the Ronald Reagan revolution. Because whether we liked it or not, Ronald Reagan brought in a political and an economic revolution in 1981, and coward Democrats like Jim Webb, who are nothing more than Democrats with the name and no progressivism, have led the party and have never challenged the political economic revolution of Ronald Reagan. So when he said to Bernie Sanders that with all due respect, I like Bernie Sanders but there won't be a revolution. I wanted to reach through the television screen and punch him in his face, because people like him are the exact reason there may not be a revolution. So long as, let me fix that. Let me say it like this. So long as Democrats like him are in office, are in charge, are in positions of power, there won't be a revolution. We will always be stuck in the Ronald Reagan paradigm. And grant and understand something. We're not talking about a proletariat revolution. We're talking about fixing the tax code just enough to support and build and maintain a better growing, faster growing middle class. That's it. And so if that's the revolution that we can't have, then why the hell are we putting up with any of this in the first place? If we can't have an America that builds a middle class, sustains a middle class, and allows the middle class to get ahead, then why are we even having a conversation? At that point, then yes, there needs to be a proletariat revolution. There needs to be an overthrow of capitalism. There needs to be all types of, the only thing that's keeping impoverished people and middle class people from actually becoming the communist radicals that people think that they are, that Barack Obama is, the only thing keeping them keeping them from doing that rather is the hope of the middle class. That's it. So with people like Jim Webb who are saying there won't be a revolution, and basically that revolution is simply defined as let's fix the middle class. That's all the revolution is talking. That's all Bernie Sanders is talking about. He's talking about let's protect, let's build, restore, and grow the middle class by fixing our tax code and undoing the draconian cuts that Ronald Reagan did in 1981. That's essentially the revolution. But because of people like Jim Webb and people like Hillary Clinton used to be, we'll see where she is today, you know, see where the wind is, you know, Bill Clinton. Because of leaders like them, we have been stuck in this paradigm. We've been stuck in a revolution, just the Ronald Reagan revolution. So when he said that, I wanted to jump through the screen and drop kick him with a tiger uppercut or something. I don't know, but that's Jim Webb. But anyway, back to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, I think he did a great job in terms of the content, what his conveying his message. I think he did a great job in holding the line, fighting back. He didn't pull any punches. He was in there, right? I think that he had more to gain. I think Hillary had everything to lose. Like Patrick said last night on the broadcast, Hillary has everything to lose. Bernie Sanders had so much more to gain. And I don't think that he gained as much as he could. I'll tell you where he did some really great things. One, let's go here on this tangent. I'm going to go tangentially real quickly. One, I want everyone who disliked my video on Cenk Uygur and Black Lives Matter in Phoenix, I want you to go back and I want you to apologize in my comment section because I told you so. I told you so. I knew that what happened in Phoenix at the Netroots Nation was going to help Bernie Sanders. When they asked Bernie Sanders last night about Black Lives Matter, he had the most convincing and the most passionate response and the very best response he could possibly give for the purposes of getting the African-American vote. Save your comments about all lives mattering and all that stuff. Let's just be pragmatic. He needs to get the minority vote. What he said was passionate, accurate, and true, and it helps you get the minority vote. And you can thank Black Lives Matter Phoenix, not Seattle. Seattle's a totally different question. Like, let's put them on the side. Seattle, I already have a video telling you why I disagree with them. But I want you to go back and I want you to apologize because I told you so. He scored points that Hillary Clinton has not yet said Black Lives Matter. Correct me if I'm wrong, show me the tweet or something, but publicly on tape, I have not seen, on film, I have not seen Hillary Clinton say Black Lives Matter yet. So I'm curious, if you are a supporter of Black Lives Matter and a supporter of Hillary, how does that cognitive dissonance work for you? How does that work? Because Hillary has yet to say Black Lives Matter, and she has yet to confront the intellectual tension around the need to say Black Lives Matter and nothing else, and not say anything more, not equivocate, not deflect, not try to sugarcoat it. Why it is emotionally, intellectually, and pragmatically important to simply say Black Lives Matter and leave it there. If you are a Black Lives Matter supporter and a Hillary supporter, you have a day of reckoning right now. How? She has yet to say it. She has yet to demonstrate that she even identifies fully that she's ready to make them. Yes, she met with DeRay. I know she met with DeRay, and I know she met with Black Lives Matter Boston, but she has not owned up to it, and she skated by last night. All right, so I'm sorry, this is not about Hillary. Let me go back to Bernie. Bernie, feel the burn. All of us should thank Black Lives Matter Phoenix, not Black Lives Matter Seattle, but Black Lives Matter Phoenix, because that prepped him. He was able to address it. And not only did he say it, mind you, he explained why it's necessary to say it. He explained why it's necessary to say that because of all the reasons we've gone over in the past. So he scored the best on that. On economic policy, he scored the best on that. On foreign policy, not so much. He needs to beef up his foreign policy. He needs to be able to speak with the same confidence. I agreed with what he said. Some people are talking about, they disagree with what he said in terms of Russia and in Syria and Vladimir Putin regretting his decision. No, I absolutely agree. Vladimir Putin is going to regret his decision to invest and put troops and money into Syria. So he didn't say anything wrong, but he didn't say it and convey it with the confidence that could draw everyone along with him. That's the thing about leadership. You can't just say what's correct. You have to say it in a fashion that convinces everyone else. And Bernie Sanders did not convince us on his foreign policy. That he needs to improve on. He needs to convince us on foreign policy like he convinced us on economic policy. The other thing that Bernie Sanders did not do well, and I have to be honest, we can't lie to ourselves. Hillary supporters, you cannot lie to yourselves and think that she's a true progressive. I just don't see how that works, right? Be honest with yourself. At least be honest with yourself, right? Hillary supporters, I can't see how you say that she's a progressive. The other thing with Bernie last night is I think that he just did not connect with people that were not already a fan of Bernie. It's important that he connects with more people, with new people. I'd like to see how many new people came over to Bernie Sanders' side. I think it was just, I don't know exactly. I can't put a pin on it, my finger on it, exactly where the disconnect was, but I don't think that he connected as much as he could have and needed to. But overall, I think he had a great night. I think he was the only progressive on there. On the stage. Caller, what is your name, comment, and a question? You're live on the air.
Hey, Paige. Hey, Bernie. It's Pedro. How's it going?
I'm doing great. I'm not doing it so great to be Bernie. I'm Ben, but
that was good. Yeah, that was good enough. I was gonna say, hey, Pedro, but anyway, sorry. I have a quick question. It's a bit tangential, and so I'm sorry if it goes too much off track. But I noticed when you mentioned Hillary not saying Black Lives Matter and Bernie saying it without like equivocating or going off on a tangent or what have you. Is it not? I find it a bit out of character, I should say, to hear someone like you sort of give that sort of requirement for an endorsement, saying like having to just say the slogan or the title without having to do much else. Now, first of all, let me just say I'm not specifically a Hillary supporter or against Black Lives Matter by any chance, but I'm more trying to put a magnifying glass on why would it take someone, why would someone, and excuse me for pandering, someone as smart as you say, oh, they just need to say Black Lives Matter in order to be approved of supporting it.
All right.
And I understand the nuances of why saying all lives matter sucks, but I think it would just take more than just regurgitating or responding with the name.
Definitely. And you may have missed one of the key things that I said, and I'll be more than happy to reiterate it. When Bernie said it, when Bernie said Black Lives Matter last night, he explained why it's necessary to say it. He explained and gave context. He gave examples of Sandra Bland and how it escalated from a simple traffic stop to being an all out to her dying 3 days later. Right. So he explained the context, which it does all of the above. When you put it in the proper context, when you explain it and you convey it with the passion that Bernie conveyed it, you're not only checking off your checkbox, right? Which is not enough, but necessary to do, right? So he checked off the checkbox with Black Lives Matter, but he went further and he explained why it's significant, and he conveyed it, like it exuded from him that this is a genuine message. So that's why he's not only on that journey, he's completed that journey in terms of fully encapsulating the passion and the reason and the justification of people saying Black Lives Matter. Now, he wasn't there in Phoenix, right? Martin O'Malley wasn't there in Phoenix. In Phoenix, Martin O'Malley just did the checkbox and said Black Lives Matter without any follow-up, without any, you know what I mean? So it was was pandering. What I'm saying about Hillary Clinton is she hasn't even got the pandering part right. She hasn't even gone, she hasn't even started down the path, and she hasn't even come to grip with the reality of why it's necessary to say it, not only pragmatically to get votes, but also because there is a glaring disconnect in the criminal justice system and in the way that police officers handle it. Now, I don't know if I went into all of that prior to your call, but what I did say prior to your call was that Bernie Sanders conveyed the need and the explanation of why. When you heard Bernie talk about Black Lives Matter last night, you believed him, and you believed there was a need for us to say Black Lives Matter. And I just don't think that any other candidate has even started that journey, like even in the least bit amount.
Okay, cool. That was pretty much it. I just had a straight question. You gave me an awesome answer. That's all. Thanks a lot, man.
Hey, man, thanks for keeping me honest. You guys feel free to call anytime you think I'm being untrue to my central my core values, right? My core values is not literally pandering, but it's not pandering, but I'm very idealistic and very pragmatic. From the pragmatic sense, you have to, if you want the black vote, you need to say Black Lives Matter. But more than that, you have to explain why, and you have to convey the essence that you actually believe it. It's kind of like, it's like saying I love you to a person who could see right through you, right? You could say I love you just to get the conversation going, but when people see right through you, it falls apart. And Hillary Clinton hasn't even lied yet and said I love you. She's like holding out and got away with it last night without even having had the conversation. Jennifer on YouTube said that a focus group showed that new people came over to Bernie Sanders. That's good. If you can link us in YouTube. If you can link us on YouTube, I definitely want to take a look at that and see that. I think that's the biggest thing that Bernie needs to do at this point, is to connect with new people. People who already like Bernie absolutely think he did a phenomenal job last night. I think that there still needs to be a new level of connect. Here's the other thing I want to talk about before I go to break. How in the blue hell do people like Lincoln Chafee get that far? How does that happen? Lincoln Chafee was like a waste of space. Whoever donated to Lincoln Chafee, whoever put $1 million into his coffers so that he can get this far, actually it's probably more, because Lessig has $1 million raised. So, however much money, who thought that Lincoln Chafee was a good investment for the Democratic nomination? I know at least 3 people right now today who could have woke up, got out the bed, threw on a suit, and gone on stage and massacred Lincoln Chafee, Martin O'Malley, and Jim Webb. Just blew them away. And I'm talking about local people. Of course, Joe Biden could do it. Deval Patrick could have done it, but now he's gone over to Bain Capital, so he's kind of out of the question of ever being a progressive again. I love you, Deval, but you know, whatever. There's, of course, we're talking about national figures, but I know some guys from just my PhD program who could just jump out of the bed and wipe the floor with Lincoln Chafee. Who thought that Lincoln Chafee was actually a good investment, and why? Whoever you are, go to patreon.com / the BPD show and send some donations over here, because we are a far better investment than those guys. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the death of the Southern strategy. We'll be back after this. What's going on, everyone? This is Benjamin Dixon, and I wanted to take a minute to tell you how you can support the Benjamin Dixon Show. One thing I've learned over the last few months is that it is impossible for us to do this without you. Every time you click on a link, every time you read an article, every time you share a podcast or share a YouTube video, you are absolutely supporting our show. And without you, it's simply impossible. But there's another way you can support us. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com and register for our blog. You will be directly contributing to the success of the Benjamin Dixon Show by registering for our blog. You will help us increase our audience and increase our reach. Remember, every click counts, every subscribe counts, and every share counts. So go over to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com, click on the Contact Us tab, and register for our blog today. There is a radical, violent revolution taking place in America right now, figuratively speaking, where we are ripping from the status quo the very notion that they have the right to define the status quo. We are ripping it from them. We are telling them that they no longer get to decide what America is going to look like. And that is terrifying for a lot of people. That is downright terrifying when someone comes into your home only to help you to understand that your home is not yours in isolation, that we share this home equally, and that we have the right to be comfortable in this home, just as much right as you have to be comfortable, so that a white Christian straight man, the comfort that he feels in America will be experienced by the gay Black woman and every other intersection that has been erased. That, my friends, that is a revolution if I have ever seen one. That is something, that is the next stage of evolution in America.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
He's obviously he's a radio show host or something like that.
You're damn right I am. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. No idea. I took my glasses off. Don't know where to put. Okay. Apparently I was too busy with my own show last night that I didn't see the three focus groups. I want to thank Donald Mueller for tweeting this to me. CNN, Fusion, and Fox News had large focus groups, and all three declared Bernie Sanders won last night. So I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Now, according to my very non-scientific poll, where about 60 or 70 people participated, Bernie Sanders was a clear winner as well. So that was just us having fun on the show. Caller, your name, comment, and or question. You're live on the air.
Hey, how you doing, man? I'm Aaron Reeves. I guess I just wanted to get your take on Bernie's campaign. I guess I'm looking at it from economically. So that's like that's what you went to school for, right?
Yeah. Well, my undergrad was in economics and my master's is in political science. But in terms of his overall ideas economically.
Yeah, so it's more so like I think the main criticism I kind of hear from him is that like it's pipe I think Fred, the name said yesterday, like his pipe dreams, or he's just trying to spend all the money we don't have.
Right.
And I'm just curious, from my understanding of his campaign, it's not he's really not trying to spend money we don't have. He's saying we have the money, it's just going to corporate interests.
Exactly.
And we can use. So I'm just saying, you think that's a realistic thing that could happen to redistribute the wealth and not necessarily putting all the burden on most of the people?
So yeah, let's start with that. Let's start with that comment of redistributing wealth. And I'm going to place you on mute just for a minute, and just because of your background noise, but stay there so in case you have a follow-up question. So with Bernie's economic policies, let's start with that misnomer of redistribution of wealth. We already redistribute wealth here in the United States. We have been doing it since the United States has been the United States, right? Since the first post office, since we took the first tax dollar and we redistributed to a different part of the economy or sector of the economy so that we can get results on something. We wanted a post office, we redistributed wealth to get that done. We wanted a militia, we redistributed wealth to get that done. That's the purest definition of redistribution of wealth. 1981, so many things happened between then and 1981, including an income tax, a very large income tax. The top marginal rate was almost at 91%. 1981, Ronald Reagan, the government is the problem, government's not the solution. He cuts it down to 27% in that ballpark, and completely gutted our coffers. The problem with gutting our coffers is you did not cut spending. In fact, he increased military spending. The problem with that is now we create this enormous deficit and debt that politicians have been targeting and saying this debt is the reason we need to cut all of these programs. This is the reason we need to cut all of these safety nets. This is the reason we need to cut all these things that would help establish, maintain, and grow the middle class. So who paid for those tax cuts? The middle class paid for those tax cuts. And all Bernie Sanders is saying, it's not a socialist revolution by any measure. He's saying we need to simply go and undo some, not even all, but some of what Ronald Reagan did in 1981. We don't need to go back to 91% top marginal rate. I think we have an economy that has outgrown the need for that, right? But we don't need to be down in the 30% in the low 30s. President Obama bumped it back up. He ended the Bush tax cuts, but there's so much more that we could even get without raising taxes anymore. But raising taxes should be an option, especially on the top marginal rate, because the middle class is paying for that top marginal rate, not in terms of money fresh out of our pocket, but in terms of all of the programs that helps to build and sustain a middle class. That's how we pay for those tax breaks for the wealthiest. Now, here's the other part of that, and this is exactly to what you're getting at, Aaron. It's not just the tax cuts and tax breaks. It's about the money that's going out of our government into the private sector in terms of corporate welfare, in terms of oil subsidies, in terms of all of these types of socialism, quite frankly, that is benefiting the top 1% of corporations and not benefiting the middle class. So when he comes in, we're not talking about the absolute need to raise taxes. That should be on the table, but we could just rearrange our priorities. How much are we spending and giving and wasting on defense contractors? What was it, the F-15 that was like $1 billion plane or $1 trillion plane, something ridiculous money, just the plane isn't even functioning, but that's money that has just gone out of the economy, gone out of the window, and now it cannot benefit the middle class, but it has absolutely directly benefited defense contractors. So with simple rearranging our priorities, we could take the money that we already have and make the middle class stronger. But when you have a society that has been browbeaten so long with propaganda, and you have people like my good friend Fred, who is a dynamic speaker, but is just dead ass wrong, believing that anything other than what we are currently doing is socialism, is communism, is fascism, well, then, of course, Bernie Sanders saying that we need to help the middle class is a revolutionary and terrifying idea, when in actuality, it's nothing more than what 1955 version of republicanism. So that's my take on it, Aaron. You're back live.
Okay. I guess one more question. There might be something I need to answer because I don't want to, I guess, get away too far from the debate. But I was gonna say, have you seen that this video that's been floating around? It was like Now This or Vice or one of those people, and it's basically saying like the amount of money that corporations like put overseas that's untaxed would be like $6.
Yeah. It's like $2 trillion. There's $2 trillion overseas right now that's not taxed, and it's not taxed at all. And the reason it's overseas is so that they won't get taxed at the corporate rate that we have right now. The problem with that is that that's money that's not circulating in our economy, and that's money that's not being taxed so that we can shore up our coffers, so we can balance our budgets here as a government. So if that money came back and was properly taxed, not only would it have the effect of reducing the deficit, but it also will stimulate the economy, because now these companies, corporations, have money that they can do different things with. The difference between, I would even say Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, but definitely between the Republican Party and Bernie Sanders, is that the Republicans want to bring this in taxed at 5%. Now, you tell me, who among us has a tax rate of 5% on any amount of money, but especially on $2 trillion? That's the thing. Aaron, thanks so much for the call. I want to clear it up for the next caller. Who gets 5% taxes? We just barely, my wife and I are just barely in the middle class, and we pay, oh God, I'm paying a tax bill every single month. because our taxes were like 35%, something ridiculous. And I still, on top of that, all of our money goes out the window because I have to pay $20,000 a year for childcare, right? But you have corporations with $2 trillion overseas, and Republicans are lobbying to get this money brought back in, taxed at 5% or perhaps 10%. How many of you have 10% tax? So that's what we're talking about. That's the difference between the Democrat. Now, let me do a hard segue, but it absolutely connects. The way Republicans have been able to get away with this. There's an article there in your description to an Atlantic article on the end of the Southern strategy. I put it there because one, I wrote about this in my book like 3 years ago, but self-publishing. That's what happens when you have to self-publish. Nobody really hears you. But I've been saying this for years. The Republicans have gotten away with this country club economic policy by playing to the Southern Dixiecrats and conservatives who don't really necessarily care about how much tax corporations are going to spend repatriating their money. They only care about conservative values. They only care about their disdain for their xenophobia. They only care about their reticence to have anything civil rights oriented. They only care about those things. So they have completely, entirely ignored for 40 years. They have completely and entirely ignored that the Republican Party has essentially done nothing on their values and has done everything to embolden and to enrich further the top 1% in corporations. That article is there, but I want to take this call. Caller, what is your name, comment, and or question?
Yeah, this is John from Louisiana. I don't know if you covered this topic earlier. I just tuned in, but I wonder what is your thoughts on third parties or other candidates being excluded from debate, and even a candidate like Larry Lessig that was deliberately excluded from the debates by taking him off the poll.
Yeah. So I have mixed feelings about that. I think that Larry Lessig, he was running as a Democrat. He raised enough money to be an official candidate, and they left him out. So I think that was a bad look on the Democratic Party, especially because we're only going to have so many debates in the first place. So it's not as though we're going to get a lot of opportunities to hear a diversity of ideas. We could have at least had a diversity of candidates on the stage. And the fact that they blackballed, basically just shut out Larry Lessig, to me just signifies how the Democratic Party is no longer a populist party. It is an establishment party, and they are behaving exactly. And when I say the Democratic Party, I'm talking about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the people in charge, the actual party players. They are behaving exactly like Republicans behaved, and they're doing their best to crown a nominee instead of letting everyone fight it out inside of the primaries. Now, in terms of third party candidates in general, I am opposed to third-party candidates simply because of Diverger's law. Diverger's law simply says that in our type of representative democracy, we are going to always tend and trend towards two parties. So it's just kind of a structural failing of our system, our type of system. Whereas if we had like a parliamentarian system, we can have a diversity of parties, and anyone can get elected, and as long as they can cobble together a majority. That's not how our system works. Our system works in a fashion that it naturally suppresses a third party. So if you Google Diverger's law, you'll see that really it's not likely. It's highly unlikely, actually, that we will ever have a third party candidate that can challenge the system. It would require someone who's willing to spend about $2 billion, right? I mean, to build their infrastructure, to hire the people that are necessary, to run the campaign, to run the ads, to counter. It's just not likely. The closest thing we're going to get to a third party is the split that we're seeing in the Republican Party right now. We'll see if Donald Trump has his way, and he's going to split the crazies away from the country club, just like the article in your description. He's going to split them away, and you'll see the Republican Party as we know it die, but it's going to be replaced by the same name and just a different type of big tent that they cobble together to get some power. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
I feel that money in politics plays a real role. This is how they exclude anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. I mean, ever since money got flooded into politics, the late 70s, it started. But I can't remember what Supreme Court decision it was. But then it just went crazy with Citizens United. I mean, that's how the establishment stays in power to help exclude everybody else. I feel if we had a wider range of candidates that were not establishment and whatnot, it would keep everybody more honest. Also, I think it would provoke thought among the voting populace a little bit more, rather than just subscribing to the two-team thing. But you are right in what you said. It is, our system doesn't pretty much, it doesn't allow for it.
If we had public financing, there would be a greater chance for a third party candidate all day long. If money was completely out of politics. But see, you have to understand that money is not just there just to be there. We're talking about staff. Let's just look at the staff, the primary staff of a presidential candidate. Those guys are out there making, $300,000 a year. Some of the top players are making $400,000, $500,000 a year during a campaign season. I think I even heard someone making $750,000 for one campaign year season. So you're talking about staff members all the way down from the top tier, all the way down to the guys who are making, $12 per day to go out and canvass. So you're talking about major organizations that they take money and buy talent. So it's baked in the system in terms of the demand. Yeah. There's going to be a certain amount of money that has to be in politics. But now what we've seen is just the opening of the floodgates where there's a lot of wasted money, and it's almost to the point where it's a perverted amount of money in the system where now nobody, unless you're willing to spend $1 billion of your own dollars, nobody is going to be able to compete until we get money out of politics. So I couldn't agree with you more on that one.
I also think that media has has a stake in this because they get them, the advertising the dollars, the campaign dollars
go straight to them.
So it's more of an incentive for them to maintain the establishment.
Yeah. Listen, look at the cluster. Look at the cluster F. Look at all the people who are benefiting from the money, and then all the people who are being affected negatively by the money. Right? You have the people, the campaign staffers. Right? They're making out like bandits. And then you have the money that's not spent on labor, you have it going to media outlets. So they're making out like bandits. And it's so bad. It's so bad that they have run out in the last election. They ran out of television ad space. And this is after prices were inflated because there was enough money to inflate prices, right? So they ran out of national television advertising space because there was so much money. There are too many people who benefit from it. Now, who loses? Anyone who has a different idea than the establishment parties want to forward. Bernie is pretty much a person with a different idea, but he's close enough to the Democratic establishment to actually have a fighting chance. And that's why I think it's important that that people go out and give Hillary Clinton hell, because Hillary Clinton is going to continue that paradigm. Like her, love her, hate her. One thing you cannot disagree with me on is that Hillary Clinton is going to continue that paradigm. Thanks so much for the call. And I'm just about out of time. But yeah, I don't think anyone can debate with me on that. I need somebody from Team Hillary. I don't care if you're just a supporter or a fan. I'll be nice. I won't railroad you. I want you to call on Friday, because we're about to end the show today. But I want you to call and debate me on, do you honestly think Hillary Clinton is going to change anything? Will anything be different if Hillary Clinton things will be different if Donald Trump got elected. It would be different for the worse. right? All the while he's destroying America, his idiotic and imbecilic fans will be like, Trump, we love you, Mr. Trump. We love you. What do they say? The Mexicans love her, even though he hates Mexicans and thinks you're rapists and murderers. That's how America would look if Donald Trump wins, right? America would change if Bernie Sanders win. We will go back to some FDR style economics that actually builds a middle class. I don't see America changing if Hillary Clinton wins. And so you have to answer the question, are you satisfied? Are you so satisfied with where America is right now that you're willing to continue doing the same exact thing? That's all I've got for you folks. Thanks for joining me. We'll catch you next time. Go over to BenjaminDixonShow.com and register for our blog. We'll see you.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
That we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.